Hello, welcome to the live stream. Today we're going over stretching for flexibility. So if you're just starting out and looking to include flexibility as part of your health and fitness, or if you've been exercising for a while and are looking to just round out or really focus in on an area of flexibility, this is going to be the right stream for you. We're going to have beginner-friendly exercises, but they'll be applicable for everyone. So if you're just joining us, my name is Greg. It's nice to meet you if this is your first time here. Hopefully this is all going forward. It looks like it's good. So we're going to start out with stretching the legs. And for this, you're going to need a chair. So we're going to do follow along stretches. So I'll show you how to do them, and we can do them together. If you have any questions, let me know in chat, and I will answer those as quickly as I can. So, first one we're going to do is for the muscles in the front of the legs called the quads. There's actually 4 different pieces of these, or 4 different segments of the quads, but they run across the entire front of your thigh. So to stretch those, we're going to use a chair. So it can be a rolling chair, it can be any sort of chair that you have, but just make sure it's secure or a sturdy chair that's not going to tip over on you. So what you're going to do is put your leg or your foot up onto the chair. That's the leg we're going to be stretching. Now, the closer you are to the chair and the higher the chair is, the more of a stretch that's going to be. So if it's a little too much, you can step a little further away to decrease the stretch. But if you're real close in, it's going to really emphasize that stretch in the quads. And if you need to, you can always get either a taller chair or a shorter chair to make it more or less intense. So I'm going to raise this up a little bit to increase that stretch. You should feel a stretch right here in the front of your thigh. If you need to, can't find another chair, you can always bend your knee a little bit to increase that stretch. So this will go all the way from the front of the hip down to the knee. And we're going to hold that for 30 seconds. Hopefully this is all going live. Just one moment, let me double check. All right, perfect. So using a chair, stretching those quads. If you want to as well, you could even go into a kneeling position with the chair to really emphasize that stretch. The lower down you go, the more of a stretch it's going to be. So if my heel is real close to my hips, that's going to really emphasize that stretch in the quads. If you need to start out a little lighter though, don't worry. Just go to where you feel tension but no pain. It should feel like the muscle is being pulled on a bit, but it shouldn't be hurtful. It should be a position you can hold for a full 30 seconds. And then same thing on the other side. So I'd start out like this, put your foot up on the chair, and then you can bend your knee down to where you feel that stretch. And then hold. If you have any questions, let me know in chat. Always love to hear questions. It could be about what we're doing right now. It could be about another stretch entirely. Or even an exercise or something you just want to know about for health and fitness. I will answer with what I can. So Bebop says my knee would break in half. Okay, so if you feel like your knee that's a little too intense, you can do this standing up. Just put your foot up on the chair to stretch those quads. As you get more flexible, you can always bend down a little lower to increase it, or a little less to decrease it. So if you need to, just stand straight with that foot on the chair. That's totally fine. As long as you feel a stretch in those quads, which run right across the front of your thigh. Yeah, you never want to go to where you're going to injure yourself, or if you feel like your knee is breaking, back off from that stretch a little bit. You don't need to push it. I was just showing a little bit more of an intense variation, you can always do it standing straight. Again, the straighter your knee, or straighter this leg is, the less of a stretch it will be, or less intense of a stretch it will be. And so we just stretched the front. Now we're going to stretch the hamstrings in the back. So still using a chair, but this time we're going to be seated in the chair. So you're going to sit right at the edge of the chair. And then the leg we're stretching goes out straight in front of you. Try and get your knee as straight as you can. If you can't completely lock it out, that's okay. But the straighter it is, the more of a stretch that's going to be at the hamstrings. And from here, you're going to bring your chest forward until you feel a stretch in the back of your leg. If you're just joining us, we're doing stretching for flexibility. This is going to be stretching for all levels. So whether you're a beginner or you've been doing this a while, this should be stretching for you. So if you have any questions, or if it seems too intense and need a less intense or more intense version, let me know in chat and I will answer those questions as they come in. So stretching that hamstring, this runs from the back of the knee all the way up into the hip. You should feel it all across the back of that leg, of that straight leg, and hold. A lot of people have say they have really tight hamstrings. How about you guys? Do you find you have tight hamstrings or any other muscle that feel particularly unflexible or tight, or give you, maybe it cramps or is difficult? I know for me, it's the muscles on the inside of my thigh, not the back of my thigh as much. We'll get to those in just a second. And then same thing on the other side. So straightening the other leg. Again, trying to get that knee as straight as possible. Then bring your chest forward. Now, it's important, don't round your back forward. And we're not really stretching at the back of the hip. So if your back rounds out, it changes where your hips are, and that muscle doesn't get stretched all the way up. It just stretches at the knee, or more at the knee. So we're trying to go straight forward to feel that intense stretch in the back of your thigh. Go to where you feel tension but no pain. I'll show you at a slightly different angle, so I'm just leaning straight forward, trying to keep my chest up. And hold. I like this one because you could actually do it even at a desk at work. You don't even have to stop working. You just put one foot out to the front and then keep on going, just looking straight forward with one foot out. So you can do this while multitasking. It's a great stretch for that. So we just stretched the front and back. Now we're going to work on these muscles on the inner thigh. Now, I will tell you, I used to be able to do full splits a long time ago, but I stopped doing this stretch, and it's going to show because it's so much easier to maintain that flexibility than regain it. I'm working to regain it, so use me as a cautionary tale on this one. It's so much better to start when you're flexible than try and get that flexibility back. But this stretch is called for a muscle called adductor magnus, along with there's actually several different adductor muscles, but this is the big one that runs right in the inside of your thigh. So for this, we're going to do a V-sit. So on the ground, you're going to bring your legs out to the side as wide as you can. Now you can see I'm not going very wide. I wish I could go wider. I'm working on it. But I would definitely recommend stretching these muscles, because when they tighten up, they really limit how deep your legs can go. These are very powerful muscles, but if they shorten, they'll really restrict your hips quite a bit. So for this, you're going to put one hand over the other and breathe out, trying to, again, keep your chest up, reaching out between your feet, and hold that stretch. If you want to, you could do this with a chair and put your hands on top of the chair. That is okay. I like to reach straight out to the front. I find that's a little easier for me. You should feel this right on the inside of your thigh, holding that stretch. Do we have anyone here that can get into full splits doing this? I know I'm not necessarily the most flexible on this. I'm doing my best, but I'd highly recommend doing this stretch to maintain this flexibility. It's so much easier to maintain than it is to regain. And just a few more seconds. If you have any questions, let me know in chat. Might go a little bit further as you feel it loosen up. Trying to reach all the way out to the front, keeping your chest up. And relax. All right, standing back up. We just stretched the inside of the thigh. Now we're gonna stretch the outside of your legs right out here. So this is a muscle that starts up at your hip and goes down into your thigh. So for this, I'd recommend doing this in a door frame. What you're going to do, we're going to stretch this outside hip. So you're going to hang on to the door or a post if you have it, anything that's sturdy. You're going to cross your inside leg across the front. So you're stretching, the stretched leg is in the back. And from here, you're going to push your hips out to the side, feeling that stretch along this outside hip. This is a great stretch for that gluteus medius, and if you have IT band pain or discomfort, if you have a tight IT band, sometimes this can actually help with releasing that IT band a little bit. Excuse me. So if you push out to the side, feeling that stretch across your hip. Trying to stretch muscles in pairs, so muscles always work in pairing, where you've got the inside and the outside, front and back. One, like for instance, the biceps and the triceps are a pair. One goes this way, one goes this way. And so as we stretch both sides to have balance between the two. It's called the antagonist and agonist muscle groupings. That's what they're called in exercise science. And same thing on the other side. So grabbing onto a post or something sturdy, crossing your leg over, and then pushing your hips out to the side, feeling a stretch on that outside of the hip. And hold that stretch. We're doing static stretching, stretching that glute med, some into that hip socket right in here, but also these muscles attach down. Some of the connective tissue actually attaches down, even down to the knee. And that's where that IT band strain can come in, because it goes all the way down the side of your leg. It's like a big sock it wraps around your entire leg, but there's a thick portion of it on the outside called the IT band. It's connective tissue around your leg. And relax. All right, so now we're gonna move up into the shoulders and chest area for some stretching. If you have anything you want to stretch or a place where you feel tight, let me know in chat. But we're gonna stretch the pectorals across here. So for this, what you're gonna do is lace your fingers together. I want you to put your fingers on top of your head, okay? And from here, what you're gonna do is bring your elbows out to the sides, trying to push your chest out to the front. You should feel that opening up your chest across here. So you should feel that stretch all the way from the inside of the shoulder to the middle of your chest, right in here. So if you need to, you can even bring your hands a little bit behind your head to really emphasize that stretch. And you might feel it more on one side than the other, that's okay. And holding that stretch. So pushing your elbows out. I find a lot of people are what's called internally rotated, where they're pulled down and forward like this. So we're opening that up, opening up that chest, really laying that rib cage expand and open up. And relax. Now we're going to stretch the lats, which are on the other side. So you got the pecs here and the lats here. So what we're going to do, still lacing your fingers together, you're going to push up towards the ceiling and backwards. So you should feel that right here in your shoulders, in that upper back. Pushing up towards the ceiling, high as you can, and then backwards a little bit. So you feel that stretch, and then hold. Again, we're trying to hold these about 20 to 30 seconds. This is what's called static stretching, where we hold in that tension position, trying to increase flexibility. And relax. All right. So we just stretched the muscles in the front and the back of the shoulder. Now we're going to go more towards the wrist. So this is great for these muscles right in here. I don't know about you, if you ever feel like your hand is a little bit tense or cramped. I know especially, so I used to play piano long ago, and holding that position, I would feel it would really tense up my hands. So I found this stretch is really helpful for actually cramped hands after something like that. I don't know if anyone else had that experience with piano. I don't even think that's normal. So Chunsaw says, do you want us to follow your workout? Yeah, so this will be a follow-along workout. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat, and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. I think these are good ideas for increasing flexibility. So if you are looking to increase flexibility, I'd recommend you do these along with me. So for stretching the wrist, you're going to bring your fingertips pointed straight up at the ceiling, and then with the other hand, we're going to gently pull back, trying to keep your elbows straight. Yeah, thank you for asking. So you should feel a gentle stretch in the forearm right along here. And then we're going to hold that stretch. So if you're just joining us, we're working on stretching for flexibility. I'm showing how to do the stretches, and then if you'd like to follow along, or if you'd like to just watch and learn and see what you want to add into your own workout routine, I'm just here to help you guys. I'm here to answer any questions or help out because I want people to move and feel like they're able to exercise and move how they want to. So if I can help you do that, I'm more than happy to. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So on this top part of the wrist, you're going to point your fingers down and then gently pull back on the wrist till you feel that stretch in the top of your forearm, right up here. Now, if you know anyone who you think would benefit from these stretches, it would help out the channel, and I hope help them if you would share this video. So that would be great if you guys know of anyone who you think would be benefited from these stretches. Sometimes people are tight and don't even realize that they are until they try and go move or stretch or do a particular exercise and realize it's tight. Marissa Williams says, thank you. You're the first channel I found that focuses on stretching. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that it's so easy to miss stretching and flexibility. And the times I've gotten injured in the past where I've pulled a hamstring or things like that, especially in my hamstrings, I have missed stretching. And the times where I focus in on stretching, I find that I get injured less. I'm more resilient against it. So I'm really here to help people do what they want to without getting hurt. So that's why I like focusing in on this. I used to train in martial arts and I would constantly get injured because I was pushing too hard, too fast, not doing enough recovery, not making sure I had enough flexibility. And so I got injured a lot doing that. And then as I got older and got more educated, because I went and studied exercise science and learned a lot more of how to not injure. And so I find that flexibility is something that a lot of people miss out on. They jump into heavy lifts and they can get hurt. So I liked starting with this. Hopefully I'm not monologuing at you guys. That's just why I like to incorporate this. And I find it's a good place for everyone to start, where you can get used to moving and feeling what each muscle should feel like and get some tension through those muscles before they start having to work really hard doing resistance training or other sports, things like that. So it gives you some resiliency against that. All right, so now let's focus a little bit on ankle mobility. So I'm going to tip this down just slightly. So we're going to do some stretching for this muscle back here in the back of your calf. So I'd recommend doing this with a wall or something right in front. So what you're going to do is put your foot up onto the wall, so your toe is up off the ground, and then you're going to try and bring your knee to that wall. Now, if you can't actually touch the wall, that's okay. Just go to where you feel a stretch in the back of your calf. You might feel this all the way down into the tendon in the back of your heel. It's your Achilles tendon. So I find that this is something it's nice because you don't need any special equipment. You can even do this. You could do this with your foot on a book or something as well. Or if you don't have a wall where you could put your foot against it, you could use a dumbbell or something just to prop your foot on top of, and then bring your knee forward over the top. Same sort of idea. But stretching that calf muscle. This is a very hard working muscle. We use it running, we use it walking. If you think about it, it's lifting your entire body weight at times. So we want to make sure that this is able to really what's called dorsiflex and plantar flex, where it can go through its full range of motion. If you're enjoying this sort of content and want to see more, if it would help me out a lot if you would either hit like or share it with a friend. Thank you guys for being here. If you have any questions, let me know in chat and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. Always love to hear questions. And we'll go ahead and switch sides. If you're just joining us, we're doing follow along stretching for increasing flexibility. I try and stream every Wednesday at this time, about 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And looking to stream more often than that, but definitely for sure on Wednesday. So you're going to put your toe up against the wall or anything that's sturdy like a post, and then bring your knee towards that wall or post. Trying to get your knee as close as you can until you feel that stretch in the back of your calf, back of that front leg. And again, we're holding all these stretches for 20 to 30 seconds. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So Ching Sa, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. Says, I prefer to do it while standing because it gives me more stretch. Is that correct? Yeah, that is definitely a, let me show everyone what he's talking about. So doing this more of a standing variation, pushing the toe in, if that's what you're talking about, then yeah, I'd say that's a fine variation on this. if you feel that stretch in your calf, sometimes what can happen when you're in a standing position is this hamstring. If it's especially tight, then it will be hard to isolate that calf stretch. So it's you might feel it up here in the thigh more. If you do, you might try bending the knee to make it more down into that muscle down in the calf. But this is totally fine as long as you feel a stretch in that calf muscle. Yeah, so both are totally fine. It's just two different ways of doing it. It's not one's right and one's wrong. They're both good, whatever's more effective for you. If that works to do standing, totally fine. I'd highly recommend either of those variations. All right, so I lost my train of thought. Give me a moment. Oh, right. So now we're going to stretch the muscles in the front of the hips. These are deep muscles that run right from the front of the hip to the front of the thigh, right in here. So to do that, we're going to go into a kneeling position again, but this time no wall or anything in front. So from here, what you're going to do is you're going to bring your hips forward as far as you can. So you're really trying to push this leg as straight as possible, trying to keep that knee on the ground. We're feeling a stretch right here across the front of that hip. You can put your hands on the front of your knee to keep your chest up. So you're really trying to push forward, opening up that hip. And holding that stretch. This is the hip flexors across that back leg. So I find these can be tight, especially if someone's working at the office or seated for a long period of time during the day. These can shorten and cause discomfort even in the hip or low back. And so I find stretching these out really helps with a lot of different things in the hip. It could even affect down into the knee. And then same thing on the other side. So back leg is the one we're stretching, trying to keep your back straight. Just bring your hips forward, so not rounding forward, staying straight and tall, pushing the hips forward. What some people do with this one is they go really far forward with the leg back, and then they're not really actually pushing those hips forward, where they're getting more of a stretch down here and less of a stretch up here. So you want to stay straight and tall and just bring that hip as far forward as you can, so not leaning towards the front really. So Chin says, that's a really good stretch I've never learned. Oh, I'm glad that we found one that works well for you. I am glad that it is a good stretch for you, and that you can, words. I'm glad it's working well for you. There we go. Sorry, my brain went two different directions at the same time. All right, now we're going to do a stretch that's, you can use a chair for this if you'd like. I'm going to show with and without a chair. Marissa says, wow, I really felt it. Thanks. Hey, I'm glad, Marissa. I'm glad you felt that. I find a really beneficial stretch for a lot of people. A lot of people are tight there and don't even realize it sometimes. So I'll show you without a chair on this one, then with a chair. So this is what I would call a horseback riding stance, because it's sort of like you're riding a horse. So we're going to stretch these muscles on the inside of the thigh. So what you're going to do is bend your knees down where I'm moving the chair. You can't really see my legs because it's black on black. There we go. So you're bending down to where you're sitting, feeling a stretch in here, and then gently pushing your knees apart. You should feel that deep in that inner thigh. So if you need to, you can use your arms to take some of the weight off your legs. So just pushing down with your arms, holding right here. If that's a little bit too intense though, you can always do the same position with the chair. So sitting down on the chair, same thing though. I'm pushing my knees out apart, feeling that stretch on the inner part of my thigh. So either or is just fine. I like it without the chair a little bit because I feel I get a little more of an intense stretch into those inner thighs. So really trying to push the knees apart. It's a little more challenging to hold this position, but if you can do it, it's a really good thing for deepening that squat position. If you want to, you can even brace your elbows instead of your hands, pushing those hips back, feeling that stretch. And relax. All right. So now we're going to stretch a little bit of the muscles up here in your neck. So these are the traps that run from your neck down into your shoulders and then down into your middle back for the lower section of them. But we're going to be stretching this upper section up here. So for that, what you're going to do is put your hand at your side, and then you're going to bring your ear to the opposite shoulder, gently tipping away. You should feel that stretch along the top of your shoulder. Oh, this one, you're talking about the trap stretch? This is an excellent stretch. I know I do this one regularly because I got in a car accident a few years back. Well, more than a few years, but I found that this one was the most helpful stretch for me after that car accident. These muscles were so tight and knotted, it would actually put pressure on my neck and head. So holding that stretch, just go to where you feel tension right here in your shoulder. Oh, the horse stance, and that too. Good, I'm glad. Yeah, I really like that deep stretch in the inner part of your thigh. I find it's one of the more effective ways for me as well to get that stretch. I'm glad it's working for you too. So now, same thing on the other side. You're going to put your hand at your side, then tip away, bringing the opposite ear to the opposite shoulder. I like it because it uses your body weight to help pull on those adductor muscles to really stretch them. It can get a little bit intense or hard to hold, so that's why sometimes the chair is nice. But either way, I find for me, that's my most tense muscle group, and I needed to get back to stretching it because it's so much easier to maintain flexibility than try and regain it. I definitely have lost some of it. So holding that shoulder down as much as you can, try and keep it down and away from your ear. Feel that stretch in your neck. All right, so we just stretched the upper trap muscles, which are up here. Now we're going to stretch the lower trap muscles, which are down here. So for that, you're going to bring your arm across your body and then grab onto your elbow and gently hug your arm in towards your chest. You should feel that in this shoulder, pulling over and across your body. This is stretching more of that middle and lower trap. Usually you'll feel it more in that middle section right between your shoulder blades. And holding that stretch. I like this because you could do it standing, you could do it seated as well. That's either way, you're going to be able to get into your shoulder usually. There's a lot of different ways to do this stretch too. And sometimes people go up like this with their arm, or over and across, or pointed up. That's totally fine. Whatever works for, sometimes someone can feel a little bit easier like this than this. Totally fine either way. Both good variations of the same exercise, or same stretch, I should say. And same thing on the other side, hugging in and across. Hopefully I'm not obstructing my mic. And holding that stretch. All right. So now what we're going to do is, I'm losing track of where I was stretch-wise. It's a little bit of a day. So, what we're gonna do now, let's go ahead and do a little bit more. I'd like to do a little bit more for these inside muscles of the thigh. So what we're gonna do is you're going to go into a kneeling position, and we're gonna stretch this leg here. So you're kneeling on the leg we're not stretching. So this leg is gonna go out to the side, and then you're gonna sit back towards your heel till you feel that stretch on the inner part of your thigh and here. So if you want to, you can put your hand on your knee just to support, or if you need to, all the way down here. The lower you go though, or the more you lean forward, usually it'll reduce it a little bit. The more you lean back, it'll increase that stretch. Oh, so Chin says these stretches are very practical for me since I do martial arts too. Excellent. What sort of martial arts do you do? I used to train in Taekwondo, but it's been a little while since I've trained in it. I found I've lost a lot of flexibility since then because I haven't done as much stretching as I used to do. So same thing on the other side, kneeling on one knee and then bringing the hips back, feeling that stretch on the inner part of your thigh. So I trained mostly in Taekwondo. I did some Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts as well though. But that was less training in that. I only trained a couple years in Jiu-Jitsu and about a year in mixed martial arts. You do Muay Thai. Oh wow. That's a really intense one. Do you do a lot of hardening where you do like kicking bamboo or kicking, I've actually seen them kick baseball bats before with their shin. It's a very, very powerful martial art though. Yeah, I did some hardening for doing breaks where we would punch sandbags or boards, hardening up your fist. But never with the shin. I know shin kicks, and I believe that's Muay Thai. Very intense. What happens with your bone is as you put stress on it, it actually thickens that bone layer. It'll build up more of almost like a callus on your hand, but in your bone. And it will get thicker and stronger, and so that's how some martial artists use their, yeah, so Chin says, my shins are getting stronger, but not enough for me to try a baseball bat. I hear you, I wouldn't even want to do that, but I'm sure your shins are pretty strong if you're training in Muay Thai. Just Yeah, I agree with you. A baseball bat would be pretty intense. I think wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I know some people will go that direction. But yeah, so martial arts are a great sport. They usually emphasize flexibility and being able to do high kicks with that. I definitely would recommend making stretching a part of your routine to maintain healthy joints and not tear or strain any muscles. Definitely a really important thing. Yeah, it has been a while since I've done anything like that. I think my knuckles are probably a little bit thicker than someone who hasn't trained in it, but nowhere near as developed as if I was actually doing a lot of training in it still. But it definitely puts on layers of bone. All right, let's do one more for the quads. So what we're gonna do a standing quad stretch. So what you're gonna do is reach around, grab your ankle, and then pull up to the back till you feel a stretch in the front of your thigh. These muscles run from the front of the hip all the way down to the kneecap. So reaching around, grabbing, pulling up. Now if you need to hold on to something for balance, that's okay. You can either use a post, a door frame. If you have a chair that's gonna be stable, you can hold on to the back of the chair, pull up to the back. I find this one tends to be a tight muscle for a lot of people too. Maybe not for the martial artists among us though. You probably have a pretty flexible quad. They have to do a lot of snapping and a lot more where you snap it out and pull it back, where you have to use those quad muscles pretty regularly. So a lot of martial artists have good flexibility in their quads, but still a good one to maintain, grabbing onto the ankle, pulling up to the back. Now, if you can't reach your foot, you can always grab onto your pant leg or take a towel. I don't have a towel on hand, but you can wrap a towel around your foot and hold onto the towel. That's fine too. Just go to where you feel that stretch, but no pain. You should feel tension without pain. Holding for 20 seconds. Are there any stretches you guys particularly like or want to do? Maybe you feel tight in your bicep, the front of the shoulder, maybe the front of the neck. Anything that stands out to you guys as something that you struggle with or maybe want to bring up, or just see if there's another way of doing a stretch. Or if you have another way of doing the same stretch, I'd love to hear it. There's a lot of different varieties of these. And again, to say it's not one is the best and one is not as good. There's a lot of really good ways of doing the same stretch, and finding the one that works for you and gets an effective feeling of tension and gets a good stretch into that muscle is the one that's gonna fit well for you. So sometimes we're all built a little bit differently, and what works well for me might work well for you or not as well for you. It might feel a little bit better if you change it a little bit, and that's okay. Like Shin mentioned that this stretch, kneeling down, he liked it better doing standing up. That was a little more effective for him. That's totally fine. And so hang on a moment. So standing hamstring stretch on the heel, one-sided. Oh, so you're doing like this, up on your heel and then leaning forward, that sort of hamstring stretch. I like that one. I do like keeping the chest up still as I do this to really emphasize that hip side of the stretch. So standing on the heel and then bringing the chest forward into trying to stretch the back of that thigh. So yeah, this is a great hamstring stretch. Again, I like this one as long as you're keeping the chest up. If the chest rounds forward, I feel like that you lose that top end of the hamstring up into the hip. So holding that stretch. Now, if you need to increase the intensity of this stretch, you can always take a wider stance and bring your chest out more towards the front to increase that stretch, or narrow the stance to make it a little less intense. Just go to where you feel that stretch. And same thing on the other side. So sticking your hips out to the back, chest stays up, holding that stretch, feeling a stretch in your front leg and the back of the thigh. I find a lot of people have tight hamstrings where they really feel, they can feel tightness in the back of the thigh, back of the knee, all the way into the lower back sometimes, where they might even have back pain because their hamstrings are so short. So, Ching-san says, I am flexible, so I find this stretch to stretch more than the other hamstring stretches. Excellent. Yeah, I think that's a great hamstring stretch as well. You try to touch the feet or your head touching the kneecap. So you're saying you try and bring your body down to here. I would say that take some of the hip stretching of the hamstring out. What I would almost do, and you do what you want to on it, but what you could do is lay down and then grab underneath your thigh and try and bring your leg to your shoulder as close as you can, feeling that stretch in the back of the thigh, because you're probably flexible enough where you could actually get your leg up. So you can grab high up, pulling up to the back. Because especially if you're in martial arts, if you do a lot of flexibility training, you might have the flexibility to actually bring your leg all the way up or pretty near to it. But I like that because the ground stabilizes your hips while you're still able to get that increased range of that hamstring as well. But as long as you're stretching both sides of the hamstrings, that's the thing that I worry about, or that I would recommend anyway. All right. So thank you everyone for being here. If you like this sort of content and want to see more, it would help me out if you could share it with a friend, and if you, especially one that you think could benefit or be helped by this sort of content. That's the goal. I want to help people move better and more effectively. So I'll be here every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. That's I started about an hour ago. So if you want to see more, then I'd love to see you back next week. I'll try and be doing these more often as well, but for sure every Wednesday. So thank you everyone for being here, and I hope to see you guys next time.